as I travel this life alone. Two paths both unknown, for what already has this life shown. The first step I diverged from normalcy, no paper cut out life for me. I did it my way, not much more to say. A road less traveled, dark and cold, I came upon a fork in the road. I pondered, both mind free. The fall had come, for yellow is the autumn tree. Both I long to travel, for I'm but one. I could not see, for both were bent the overgrowth and canopy. Where will destiny lead me? The first step I diverged from normalcy, no paper cut out life for me. I did it my way, not much more to say. I began my journey on the road less traveled. Regret haunts me at times, looking back wondering where the other path myself would find. But both paths are traveled equally, for many take the zombie road to normalcy, and others seek individuality. From the wear on the trail it appears 50-50. With every footstep came pitfalls and risks, rewards and opportunities. Looking back, what did I really miss? The first step I diverged from normalcy, no paper cut out life for me. I did it my way, not much more to say. There's no place for old men, a breed going extinct, as the youth coddles each other and love appears to be in the air. Breeze singing and trees living, a time of generations dying. The sea is full yet so many are falling, born to die in neglect with their unaging intellect. Two ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go. I shall transcend this life so bold. How age makes a man invisible. He wanders alone, tattered as his clothes. Forgotten soul finds song in his heart. Monuments of magnificence the seas have taken me to Byzantium. Two ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. this life so bold. Once free from this body, I'll never come back again. Not to this place I'll be where goldsmiths work. To entertain the lords and ladies of Byzantium, it matters not what is the past, or what is passing, or is to come. To ages to be forgotten, the world is promised to the young. I will travel to eternity where age cannot go, and I shall transcend this life so bold. Pen to paper, a lost friend's letter. In darkness I travel, my eyes upon a house disheveled. Walking the halls, all the pain I see, paranoia and anxiety. Usher was telling me, paranoia rising, the house is hearing.
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. Join us in the real reality. Oh, man. Pleasant Sunday. Everybody have a good day. It's a little bit cooler now. It's cooled off a little bit, especially at night when we're having to do our job. So it's gotten cooler, you know. Oh, man. So I found this drink, and it's called Iron Brew. And I can't remember what country it's from now. I asked somebody to look it up for me, but they were busy, I guess. But I think
Let me look at the label.
Yeah, I can look at it. I got to put my glasses on though. I think it's Czech Republic, but I'm not for sure. So it's got 23 grams of sugar, but compared to but they use
people in the chat who know. They say it's from Scotland.
Scotland. Is that what it is? Oh, okay. So it's Scottish. No wonder it's all in English. But sometimes these foreign drinks, or snacks, they'll put English, everything in English.
Bruh.
Scottish. Okay. Yeah, I had a case of it sent to me. And I opened it up. I hadn't even had a chance to look to see where it was from. So thank you. But I thought it was funny because Iron Brew, because I hang out at the Iron Bull. So, when I'm not in there dancing around with assless chaps,
Iron Brew
I'm putting this in me.
Yeah.
Iron Brew. What's in you? I tell you what's in me. I just go in the Iron Bear. And I dance around with all my friends. We wear little frills, little frilly shirts and stuff. We have these, those little David Crockett shirts. I love those little David Crockett shirts. They have the little frills.
Oh, yeah, you look good in the frills and the David Crockett shirts.
Yeah, I'm just dancing around.
You're too sexy for the shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I dance around. And I tell my partner, I'm like, I'm gonna be Fred Astaire.
We are all too sexy for our shirt in the Iron Bear.
And you be Ginger Rogers. And then we switch it up, and I'll be Ginger Rogers, and you be Fred Astaire.
And we all drink the Iron Brew sodas.
Iron Brew, and I like it when I like his name, Astaire. I like when people stare at me when I'm wearing those chaps. I just shake my butt, shake it all around. You know, you get it all slick and oily. It's all greasy. We're all greased up with beef. We use beef tallow down. It's healthier. I used to just use the glycerin. Just jump in it, a big vat of it, and come back out. Woo! Now I use beef tallow, folks, all over my face.
All grass-fed beef tallow.
My ass and nipples.
Free range and grass-fed, yeah.
It's awesome. We just go in there and we have a big old hoedown. and I'm not poking fun at people who really do that. Okay, yes, I am. But hey, you know, it's whatever. It's whatever. But apparently I'm just, you know, I'm a big old, as they say in Spanish,
You're a mighty Kong.
You're a mighty Kong.
As they say in Spanish.
Mm-hmm. It's whatever. I don't give. You know, you people can say what they want about me. They really think that they're going to hurt my. You know how hard it is to hurt my feelings. So they can't hurt my feelings, and they know that. So they go after people I care about. So, yeah, just please continue to pray for my family. Pray for me. You know, I'm under a lot of stress. But what's that song? I got a million problems. I got a million problems, but my haters aren't one. Haters validate you, though, to the young people.
Yeah.
Well, young people. I had a young girl reach out. Well, she's not a young girl. To me, she's a young girl. She's 24. That's young to me. Mm-hmm. But she, you know, she was working at this coffee place, and I gave her the card and started listening to the show. Shout out to her, to Angela. But she reached out to me. She goes, you have a good following, and you have haters. Like that's how people, like the younger generation. That's a validation.
Yeah.
Because you have haters, that shows that you're a legit YouTuber or podcaster. That's like a good thing. I'm like, good grief, dude. What did Madeline talk about? That's young to me. What did Madeline's birthday today? You're talking about young. You're like 30, aren't you? 30? Did you turn 30 today, or you're 31? How old are you, Madeline? So the people in the chat can laugh at you talking about.
Not how old do you look, but how old are you?
Somebody's giving me the score of the Cowboys game. I give a crap
31.
about the Cowboys. The Cowboys defense is so bad that I'm convinced that we here at PRT, me, Anthony, Nelly, my pets, Tony, my brother, Scorpion, throw Maddie in there.
Our two deceased birds.
You bring Dick Richards in, let him play. We could probably score at least 10, 20 points on the Cowboys defense. I'm convinced of it. We just need some blockers. We'll play the skills positions. I'll play quarterback. I can do it. And I think I could throw some passes against that secondary. I could probably light them up. They're pretty bad. And I'm going to tell you something else too. They said, well, it's a personnel issue, or it's the what else did they say? It's Eberflus, whatever the Greek dude, the dude that's the defensive coordinator. I said, dude, it's all of the above. You don't have the personnel really, and then you have them out of position too. So, you know, can't kick, pass, or run, but you make up for it by not tackling. So good for you. Yay. So you post a score all day. I don't have any hopes of the Cowboys doing anything this year. I was bummed today because I'm a big Bucs fan, and the Buccaneers lost to the Eagles. They made a comeback. They had a surge at the end there. They lost by 7 points. They could have won that game. Oh, man. Yeah, I was on the line, Corley. I was a defensive line because I was really fast. I was quick and fast. Quick and fast, two different things, but I was both. But Risky Precision says Steelers. How are the Steelers this year? I haven't even keeping up with much of it at all, really. And then college, the Aggies and the Sooners are both ranked higher than Texas, which gives me something to look forward to when we beat their ass. You know, and the Aggies, they're more worried about what we're doing. They don't even pay attention. They'll watch their game and go, yeah, good. The Aggies won. What about the Longhorns? They're like stalkers, dude. Yeah. They are. They're like, what are they doing? What are they doing? I heard
they're like that ex that conveniently forgets something at your house all the time.
Put the camera on yourself there, buddy. Go ahead, say it again.
I said Aggies are like that ex that conveniently forget something at your house all the time, and they're sitting there knocking on the door or like calling you. Hey, I forgot this. Hey, I forgot that. Oh, my
hairbread.
Yeah, my hairbread's there. Oh, I left my jacket. Always an excuse to think about you and just obsessed.
That happens. And they do that. They are kooky. Folks, if you're not from Texas, you would understand. I was reading an article the other day, and I don't want to stir up a hornet's nest because part of my family are in that cult of A&M. And it was so ridiculous. Like they were talking about, they asked these Aggies, you know, what was the first thing they thought of when they heard the word Texas? And it wasn't the state of Texas. It was Texas, the university. They interviewed 20 of these people, dude. There was a guy, he was there on the campus. He was interviewing these people, and these weren't the kids. These were like people going to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were like going to but it was a baseball game. And he was interviewing them, and he goes, there you have it, folks. And this guy, he goes, I'm not a Texas fan. He goes, I'm a Baylor Bear or whatever, born and bred. And it was a few years ago. But the fact that he interviewed the Aggies, and the first thing they thought about was not our beloved state, but Texas, the university. When I hear the word Texas, I don't think of the Texas Rangers baseball team. I don't think of the Texas Longhorns or any other sports franchise. I think of my state.
Yeah.
Not these lunatics like, oh, freaking Texas Longhorns.
Foaming at the mouth.
And they were just, one of them was like, oh, he was some reddish freckled. He was very bad looking. I mean, he looked terrible anyway. The guy knew what he was doing. He was picking the ugliest people he could find. At least that's what I thought at first. And then I looked around at the crowd and I said, oh, yeah, I forgot. It is the Aggies. They have that look about them, and they're all, oh. And you know what they do at their games too? I'm not even lying, man. I went because my cousin used to pitch for them. I went to go watch them play a couple times. They'll do this. Their hat will be on backwards,
mm-hmm.
and they'll do this with the keep the sun out of their There's even a meme with a guy doing that at the College World Series.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I can't see, bro. That's why you turn the hat around backwards, you dummy. And you do that so you can see. But considering where you went to school, I can understand why you probably don't know that. And what's really funny is that there's a lot of conservatives that go there like, oh, it's a liberal school. You realize that 70% of the students at your college are literally foreigners. Yeah. Unbelievable.
But at least it's in the middle of nothing.
And if you go through there, like Bragg College Station, I haven't been there, thank God, in years. But if you go through there, it is unbelievable. Like their whole town is painted maroon. And everything is about the Aggies.
It's probably no red, white, and blue for the Lone Star State there.
There's nothing.
All maroon.
There's nothing. It's
no
all
Texas flags, just Aggie flags.
All I saw was just Aggie this and Aggie that. When you come to Austin, you see a lot of Aggie people stuff here too, because the cult has spread. So they're down with the sickness. But, and they think that there's some kind of, and I'm going to be honest, there's an undertone there of like, Christian conservatives, yeah, but really and truly, they're just like rednecks. I'm going to be honest. Don't lie. That's why you. Mm-hmm. But it's funny though, because like I said, it's like 68% of the kids. I'm not even joking. That's a real number. Now this was a few years ago. It was like 2020. I read a thing about it. It was 4 or 5 years ago, right? But it was 68% were foreigners. There were less foreigners at UT. Of course, UT is a lot bigger than there were at A&M. But it's crazy, man. Like, it's just, and it's a cult. That's what it is. Yeah. JD, 1975. What's up, brother? How you doing, man?
Those male cheerleaders are so disturbing, dude. They're weird.
God. You gotta
what are they called? Cheer?
I don't know. Don't get me to lie.
They got a name for them. Maybe somebody in chat knows what they're called, but they're like male cheerleaders, but they don't call them that. Like cheer commanders or some weird crap.
Yeah. It is weird. And they're like they're not into normalcy. Let's put it that way. Even I have 2 cousins who've played ball for A&M, and they transferred from other schools, and both of them said the same thing, that they were like, yeah, we were we're Aggies, but the fans are way more rabid than the players, and they tried to get them to. Risky says, I need to get my information. This is important here. He says, I need to get my information to you for my swag bag. Okay, put the banner up, Anthony, for them where they can go to.
Yeah. Well, actually, I saw him talking earlier. He's talking about Patreon. So Patreon, you can send us a message directly on Patreon. That would actually be better. Risky.
Actually, no,
TV.
it wouldn't, because Maddie and Tony have access to the giveaways at PureTPodcast.com. Mm-hmm. So please send it to, disregard what Anthony said, not to override you, but overriding you. Send it to giveaways at PureTPodcast.com. That is the best way to get your swag for anything. Okay. Anthony means well, but they
have access to the Patreon too, though.
Well, yeah, but this is the best way to put it all in one. Okay. If you have a Patreon, or if you have a giveaway, just do, because it's all giveaways. So go to giveaways at PureTPodcast.com. All right. Like I said, Anthony means well, but he was born with a peanut in his head. Okay. So don't look at me like
I mean, you realize that like anyone can send a message, an email, and say, hey, I'm a Patreon.
Really?
To that email.
Wow.
But if they send it on Patreon.
You can't look them up and cross and check it.
Yeah, but it's easier if they send it on Patreon. Look,
so we got to do two different ones because Anthony's brain doesn't work.
Whichever one that
robot brain.
Excuse me, I'm speaking. Whichever one that you know how to do. If you know how to send the message on Patreon, if that's easier for you, do that. If it's easier to send an email to the email at the bottom of the screen, then do that. But we'll take care of you either way. Okay.
Thank you, brother. You know the struggle is real. The peanuts. He understands. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Let's get my older brother looking out for me.
I've got a lot of people saying Anthony is right in the chat.
Well, according to the Dumbledorfs, the dumbass dwarfs.
Okay, so Bernard Fox is a Dumbledore according to you.
I'm not talking about him.
Paul Pachura, Amy Creel.
Why would you do that and try to make it look I'm talking about my listeners?
Edna Wilson. They're Dumbledores. I'm talking about
the haters. The haters claim that you say things and that I take it and make it my own. Do you know how stupid that is? You think that I need Anthony to do, because half the time he ain't even on the show, and 80% of this show is me talking.
Yeah.
So I need him to tell. Well, I can't make it. I need Anthony up here to tell me what to do, because I'm a puppet, and he needs to tell me.
I mean, what's the point of you even being the host then, if that's the case?
Have no purpose.
Like that's completely inefficient and stupid.
Got no purpose.
What?
I got no purpose in life.
These people have no like common sense. And
well, dude, they say one thing,
even just like from a business perspective, it's like
okay. See now what you're doing right now. Calm down.
There's a middleman.
Hold on. What you're doing right now is trying to think about their logic. See, that's going to hurt your head. Those people don't use logic. If you've ever seen them rant and rave, they were doing it today. There's no logic behind it. They just say a bunch of stuff, and all you can do is sit back and laugh. To them, I am literally Hitler. I mean, and it's because they don't know any other major dictators, so they just pick him because they don't know anybody. If you say Pol Pot, they're like
the things in the kitchen.
They don't know what that is.
I got a fishing pole in a pot.
They got a pole in a pot, and they're wearing it on their head. So I mean, you're not dealing with logical, reasonable people here. But here's the thing, guys. We got 350 people in the chat now. Let's get started, man. Okay, so I don't know what you named this episode. Might have named it some crazy weird stuff.
Attacked by shapeshifting witches, or attacks by shapeshifting witches.
Well, these aren't attacks by these was attack, I guess. Here's what happened. So everybody knows if you've listened to Abe Seas, okay, and you've listened to me, there's been a lot of people on the live stream that comes on Monday. I love Mondays. Tomorrow, people come on and they tell their encounters, and it's always a good time. We have a good time. So and it'll be that way again tomorrow. It's just a given. We're going to have a bunch of people going to come on and tell some amazing encounters, because we have a lot of people at PRT that tell amazing encounters. Tony's here. Oh, awesome. Thank you. That's why it took you so long. You went to get me a coffee?
No, I had to also.
He just walked out without giving me mine.
Wow.
And I fully expected that
I don't think he cares.
That he didn't even get it.
Well, you know what though?
There he is.
Tony probably has been watching you interrupt me and argue.
No,
He's being a good kid.
I can assure you,
That's the
he
only
has
reason
not
I
been
came at
watching
all.
the show.
I was listening.
He has been pretending.
And this whole time,
do
Anthony's
things.
been so rude. I was like, Wolf needs backup because this guy is just
Okay.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. He's a very ridiculous.
Anyway, I gotta go get your
Why don't you
coffee.
be more specific about how I'm rude then?
He's trying to get your coffee. Why are you interrupting him?
When he comes back, ask him to be a little bit more specific about how I've been rude.
Do y'all want us to continue
attention.
an argument where Anthony's clearly wrong, or do you want me to tell the
I'm
show?
not wrong. I will die on this hill.
Can I tell the story
I will
for the
die
show?
on-
You gonna let me talk to the audience? Because you're being very rude and disruptive.
Don't you remember? I'm the brains behind all of it. I tell you what to say. Remember?
Well, as a subordinate to the brain, I'm asking politely, can your brain shut up for a minute?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
in that case, continue. You have my
This is
permission.
what I go through. This is what I deal with. Okay, so after a lot of bad noise, we're gonna get started here. So, but we got a guy who reached out to me, and his name is Bobby. Now, if you're familiar with the Rio Grande Valley at all, and Abe has had people on the show talk about it, he's talked about it, I've talked about it, a lot of people we know. You get the point. So there are a lot of black magic practitioners down there. I can attest to this. Okay, I spent time down there when I was a young man, and I remember going down to South Padre and hanging out, and there was this woman from Port Isabel, and her daughter were at the bar we were hanging out at. And I remember one summer her telling me, get this is weird. Now, I gotta say this. I didn't see it. Okay. 3 of my friends were with me. One of them was my brother. I guess we're friends, but no, he's my friend. But we were hanging out with a couple of our other friends. And one of them, he's deceased now, obviously Willie, but he was there. And then we had another friend that I have lost touch with. His name was John, and we haven't talked to him in years. But we used to call him John Boy. John actually swears up and down, and Willie, I think, backed him up that they saw this. Now, this is something that happened. This woman was wearing a necklace, not a upside down whatever, but she had the pentagram, the witch's pentagram. So my brother was flirting with this woman's daughter, who was probably older than us. My brother was probably in his late 20s. This woman looked like she might have been 35, but her mother was with her. Now, here's what's weird. She said, my mother's here. She's 65 years old. I'm not joking, Anthony, when I tell you this, folks, she looked like she was probably
Younger,
maybe 45. And I'm not joking. And she was very beautiful, raven haired, just a Hispanic woman, no wrinkles, lines, and but some of these Hispanic women, they can look, and Asian women too, they look a lot younger than they are. And so I thought, man, that's weird. Now, so I was sitting there talking to my brother, and I said, you gotta be careful with that woman. I saw that necklace, and I said, she's got a pentagram on her, but it's the Wiccan one, where it's upright, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, she's got that necklace on there. So he said, well, ask her if she's a witch. We were drinking, And so I told her, I said, what's your name? And I remember her name. I'm not even going to repeat it, but I remember it. And she told me, she says, yeah, I'm a witch. She said, I said, where y'all from? She says, well, I'm from Raymond. I'm not Raymondville, right now, Brownsville. She said, I'm from Brownsville. She's like, but we live up here in Port Isabel now, because it got kind of bad down there at that time with all kinds of stuff that was going on. And you got to remember, this was like I'd say probably well over 20 years ago. I can't remember what year it was. We used to go down there all the time. And my godfather had a company down there. And sometimes we'd use the beach house, so that's what we were doing. And we were waiting. We got down there early. We had several friends that were heading down there that were going to come. And it was a big end of summer party we were going to have, probably ended up with like 20, 30 people, kind of a private beach party, whatever. But this was the night before. And, of course, this is the drinking preliminaries, And my brother was talking to this woman, and he was, I told him, I said, you be careful with this woman. I said, look at her and her daughter. They look like twins. I don't think this woman. And then that girl told D, my brother, that her mother practiced witchcraft and that she could shapeshift. Okay. Now, I might have told this story before and on different platforms too, but it's not a real involved thing or whatever. But at the end of the night, we go back to the hotel. D went off with this girl, and they went and hung out at another bar. And I was tired. I had to get up the next day, and we were going to get the beach house ready for some friends to show up. Right? It's not my house. It was, my dad's friend. And so we went and we're at the beach house, and so this weird thing happened. We all fell asleep, and in the middle of the night, I was completely oblivious to this. This had not happened to me. So I don't really claim it as an experience, but I was awakened at like 3:30 in the morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my friends were freaking out, including Dee's buddy, who was kind of a dipshit. No offense, but he was a dipshit. And he said that they saw this giant black bird fly by the patio. We were the thing was like a townhome type thing. It was 2 stories, And he claimed that he saw this giant black bird swoop by, and then just for good measure, swoop back by. And it didn't have a human face or anything like that, but it was the size of a full-grown man.
Mm.
And Willie confirmed. He goes, I was half asleep. I didn't see it the first time, but I just heard John yell. He goes, and I was laying on the recliner. He goes, and I got up and I went to the window, and Willie was like, whoa. Now, Willie was Creole. He's a black guy from Louisiana, Lake Charles. And he was immediately like, it was a haint. He always, y'all heard him. He always said the haint. It was a haint, Wolf. It was a haint. You got a haint, So everybody was like blaming D. D comes home in the morning, all like, it was like take a nap because he's not going to help set up nothing because he's drunk. Still, which I didn't care. We had some friends already showing up and everything. My friend Nick and a bunch of other people. He was, of the opinion that there was something weird about these people, because when he was with that woman, he heard a knock, like 3 knocks on the door, and when that woman's daughter, who was a little older than D actually at that time, she went up to the door and opened it, and there was nobody there. And she said, "Oh, it's my mother checking on me." Yeah, right.
Huh.
Nobody there. So that was the weird thing that happened to D. There was nothing else of any incident. We were down there for 4 days, counting that night. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It was a big party. We had a long weekend. I think it was Labor Day weekend. A bunch of friends showed up, and then there were other little parties going on, and it just turned into a big party, and we had a lot of fun. But that was weird. I remember that. Now, that's the valley right there for you. Whether it was this woman that they saw or it was a cryptid of some kind, I can't tell you that because I don't know, and I didn't see it. I didn't get a look at it, dude. And Willie got a very quick look at it the second time. And probably 6 months or so before he passed away, we were working at a site together. And because he would work for me off and on for years. And I asked him about that because we saw, now this was an owl, but we saw a big owl that was on the dumpster at that apartment complex we were doing security at. And there was a 2-man post. And we saw it fly, and it was definitely just an owl. And he goes, Lechusa, right? Because here in Texas, people know what that is. And I looked at him, I said, like that big bird y'all saw down in the valley, in South Padre. And he goes, yeah, man. He goes, I don't know what that was. It was just a big, huge blackbird. The way he described it to me was like a giant raven, the size of a person. Now, we know, especially down in the valley in Texas, that doesn't physically exist as an animal. But could it exist as a spirit or a witch? More specifically, a shape-shifting witch. Well, we got a guy named, he goes by Bobby, but anyways, some people call him Robbie, some people call him Bobby. He's a white guy, and he lived right outside of Harlingen, had a little spread right there with a good friend of his, and were working at a place down there, and they were involved in some stuff at one time. And his friend said, no, come down here and work with me. I'm legit, whatever. And they were doing some bad stuff a few years before that. And he thought, maybe I shouldn't go down there. There was some bad blood that happened between me and some people. And he believed, this is what he told me. And I talked to his wife briefly. She was on the phone a little bit, but she is the one that got him to reach out to me because her sister, Evelyn, listens to our show. Shout out to Evelyn. Thank you for that. So Bobby says, look, he's got real thick Texas accent. He's not from the valley. He's from West Texas. And he told me, he says, he goes, I don't know what to think. He's like, but I was down there and I was involved in some mess. He's like, and that's what the only good thing about it was I met my girlfriend. He goes, and you know how it goes when you start getting involved in stuff. And what I mean by that is something illegal he was involved in. He admitted it. He said, look, I got out of there as quick as I could. I got out of there. I owed money. I paid it. He goes, but I think somebody cursed me because the next 2.5 to 3 years, he says it was just a lot of bad things happened to him. He had a really bad wreck. He lived, but his best friend got paralyzed. That was up in Oklahoma. And then he goes, I went out and I was working in the oil field. And literally there was a problem with one of the machines. And this is gruesome. He lost one of his testicles.
Oh.
Now, we have a friend that happened to, too. And I told him, I said, that ain't unusual. I had another friend that almost lost his leg. And it severed his femoral artery. By a miracle of God, he lived. He also got a job working in an oil refinery because he knows how to do those kind of things. And so he ended up just bouncing around. Then his friend, who had gotten him in trouble before, said, look, I got everything straightened out and I'm down here and I'm working and I need somebody. I'm not going to get into what they were doing because they ran afoul of some people. It was legit. There was nothing illegal about it. He goes, I just need some help getting my company started. So he goes down there to help his friend Ricky get his company started. And now I'm just using the name Ricky because that's not his friend's real name. Bobby is his guy's real name. You don't have a problem with me saying it. He even said I could use his last name, but I don't want to do that because who knows. But he went down there to help this guy. And so his girlfriend was living up here, not in Austin, but up in Georgetown. So she stayed up here for a while, and they had a kid together. And so he had to take care. The kid was only 3 years old, and he was autistic. So she had to stay up here, and there was special needs. The grandparents, his girlfriend, who's now his wife's mother and father, were very involved in the child's raising. So when he asked his wife to come down, they agreed to take care of the kid for a few months because he needed special care, and he needed his wife to come down there to work to help them set up this business. Now, like I said, it was down in the valley. They rented a house in town instead of being on the edge of town and living with this other couple because, according to him, his friend, he was a great guy, but his girlfriend was obnoxious, and she had another friend that was always hanging around. And his friend, Bobby's friend Ricky, and him and Bobby's wife did not really get along with this woman. That was a problem. Because this woman made a threat to them at one point during an argument over groceries because she had her boyfriend come over and she was like flopping there. Now, granted, it was a big house. It was a big ranch house, but he was like, you don't live here and you're just flopping here and you're eating up food, that's a problem, and she was like, well, I don't have to pay for this. I don't do this. I don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And then one day they come inside and she's playing dominoes with her friends. Hang on one second, folks. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, please. So they come inside, they're playing dominoes, right? And just drinking. And there's like, by his own words, he goes, dude, I had just gotten off probation. I didn't need trouble, and I didn't want any problems. And they had a bong then. They were all smoked out. The whole house smelled. He's like, we had to get out of there. This woman told him, said, if you want to leave, she told him, she goes, we could take over your part of the rent, because he was on the lease there, right, with that guy. And it was only a couple months left. And he said, good, take it over, do whatever. I'm out of here. He leaves, goes to town and stays in town for a little while at another town there in the valley. I'm not going to get into the specifics. That was when the fun really began. He says, dude, I moved in next door to these people, and there was this guy who immediately came over and was nice and said, hey, what's up? He's like, I felt uncomfortable. He goes, my wife is Hispanic. He goes, but I'm white. I'm the only white guy in the whole neighborhood. And he goes, and this guy made me feel real at home. He was a really nice guy. He goes, and he was one of those really actually good people. He was a salt of the earth guy. He goes, and he warned me like the third day. He goes, I was checking my mail and he was out there getting his paper. People still got the newspaper back then. This was years ago. This was about 25 years ago. And he said, I go out to get my mail, and this guy comes out there and he tells me, he says, you need to be really careful. He goes, you must have angered somebody because you have something that's been hanging out in your yard. Now, Bobby, he grew up in Texas. He knows the drill. He knows that there is some weird stuff that goes on here in Texas. He wasn't perturbed too much. He just said, oh, okay. And he's like sitting there. He goes, I'm just sitting there holding the mail. He goes, and I'll never forget this guy. He's standing there, in his robe and wife beater and his boxers, And he's like, look, he goes, let me go inside, get some pants on. You can come over in the backyard and we'll talk. And he's like, I have no reason to doubt this guy, whatever. He seemed nice. He goes, and his wife was really cool. She got to know my wife. And so I go over there and he goes, I just go through the backyard fence and he's there. And he's like, hey, what's going on, man? He goes, and he had literally it was like he made this drink. It was like lemon and orange juice, like fresh squeeze. He goes, it was amazing. We sat there and we talked. And he had this carbonation that he put in it. Guy had like his own little bar right there. It wasn't alcoholic because he said, I don't drink. And he was very respectful about it. He goes, but this dude had his own little setup. You could tell he'd been living there for a while and he had a really good job. And he goes, I respected him and I got along with him. And he goes, I'm going to tell you something straight up. He said, I don't know where you're from exactly. And he told him, he says, well, I'm from West Texas originally. I worked in the oil fields in West and East Texas. And I lived in Georgetown. And now we're down here. And my wife and me were staying with these people and blah, blah, blah. And he goes, well, I found something. He goes, and I don't know if you believe in this or whatever. He goes, but he had a picture. And he showed him. He says, this is a picture. And it was a picture, not like from a phone.
Uh-huh.
He says, here's a picture.
Like a photo.
And he says, when you first come to look at the house, the very next day, something showed up in a tree. When he showed him the picture, Bobby goes, at first I just kind of laughed. I was like, yeah, it's an owl. Like, he's like, what is this? Is this, then he goes, I kind of thought, this guy's nice, but he seems a little too nice. And maybe he's a little kooky. He goes, I thought maybe this guy was crazy. I'm not thinking, he's real into this Mexican superstition. And the guy tells him, he says, look, man, you got something that hangs out in your backyard. And it just started after you came to look at that house. He's like, we had somebody that lived down the street that I am convinced. He goes, and what I'm about to tell you, he goes, you may think I'm crazy right now. He's like, I can tell that you think that. He goes, but by the time this is over with, you're going to know. He's like, but that person was a bruja. Bobby had heard that word before, but he was like, by his own admission, he goes, I was a bit ignorant of it. I was like, what is that again? Is that like he's like, it's a witch. He's like, and during Halloween, they had a kid's bouncy house, and she walked over there and I'm going to say what it was first. She threw something in front of it and walked her ass back across the street. 3 of the children's parents had wrecks with those kids on the way home.
Oh.
They found a severed chicken's foot in front of that bouncy house. That woman ended up having a lot of problems with different people in the neighborhood, and ultimately they began to fight fire with fire, not in the way that they cast spells or curses or whatever, but the neighborhood rose up against her. Literally, Bobby tells a story, and I had there was another one like this that I got not too long ago. And here's the thing, I got to make an announcement at the end of this. I got to make an announcement about the show. You'll be excited to hear this. But we got a story recently about that, and I talked to you about it. We were at the gym last night. We were talking about it. And he says this neighbor told him, he goes, I was walking my dog, and I hear this like this, I can't do it. It's like this cackling noise. He says, and I look around, and I hear it's up in a tree, and I look up, and I see these big yellow eyes, big, like, and he does his hand, he says, dude, he lifted up his hand like, like a half circle. And he says, dude, it was crazy that this neighbor, and he says, I can introduce you to this guy. I can tell you this really happened. And the neighbor saw this lechuza, And he's like, do you know what that is? And Bobby's like, not really. He said, it is a woman who can shapeshift into like an owl. But sometimes they change into like other things, like wolves, coyotes, things like that. And when Bobby first reached out to me, he was encouraged to tell his story about a werewolf, dogman, whatever, and a owl woman, right? So he was just going to tell me his like main two encounters, and he thought that was it. But I told him, no, I want the whole story. Give it to me, and he did, and here we are. And that was about 3 weeks ago. Thank you for doing that because it was pretty crazy. So when somebody gives you one of these encounters, you know, a lot of people in this field, their instinct is to just take those simple stories and just, you know, just talk about that. Don't go too deep and get too complicated. Not here at PRT. Y'all know that.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to know everything, and it was something. It really was. But I'm going to say this, and this may sound a little bit crass, but a lot of people can't retell it. That's why they don't do it, you know, and they'll just turn it into like a short or whatever, or they'll have that person come on. And some people, this guy could talk, but not everybody can. And then you end up with somebody who's struggling, and then people are like, oh, they're lying. That's not rah, because that person can't tell a good story.
They're not a good orator.
Yeah, they're not everybody's a good orator. A lot of people aren't. It's a big fear too of talking publicly is a big fear people have. And so Bobby could talk pretty good. He wasn't, you know, kind of fast. I told him, I said, you could be an auctioneer. He was a blah, 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 blah. And he'd get a little bit ahead of himself. No offense to you, Bobby, you did a great job, but I had to get you to slow down a little bit. When he was telling me this, here's a weird thing too. I heard a cracking noise, like something was like, you know how when you take like bubbles, you know, those pop them,
bubble wrap, yeah.
I sounded in the background. I heard it a couple times, and I was talking to him, and I said, Bobby, whatever you want to be called. His name's Robert. I said, Bobby, I hear something in the background. I'm like, what is that? You know, a kid playing back there or something? And I heard a voice too, like a kid. He said, dude, I'm here alone. So that was weird. I was like, oh, okay. And he don't even live in Texas anymore. But yeah, that was weird. I said, maybe your house is haunted. He goes, dude, I'm haunted. He's like, you might hear things. It's not, you know, it's not the bubble popping, whatever. So he, by his own admission, he says he's heard that about a dozen times over the last couple of years, but he didn't hear it at that time. I did. So I was listening to him talk, and I was like, whoa, that's kind of weird. I was just like, dude, I heard that. Now this happens to me probably, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. I'll be talking to somebody and I'll hear something. It's a weird thing. But when you're dealing with people who've been afflicted, and I don't care whether it's Bigfoot, Dogman, that's the thing people don't. I was listening to a show last night, and it's some friends of mine show, and the lady on there, she was like, oh, I've been into the paranormal for years. I'm looking forward to learning about cryptids. I'm like, you were in the paranormal for years. You already know about cryptids. That's what I thought. You know, in my mind, I was like, that's
yeah, because they are paranormal.
It's all the same to me, right? I'll be right back. You guys take over for just a second.
This is a pretty cool story so far. I think that the fact that lady threw that chicken foot in front of that bouncy house and several of those kids' parents got into a wreck. I already hate her. She's rotten.
It's pretty cool. The neighborhood came together, you know, against this lady. Builds a community like a evil brouhaha.
Like, and it makes me think too, like, and this is kind of, it's like a controversial thing to say. I mean, especially nowadays, but these witch trials throughout history, like the Salem witch trials,
Mm-hmm.
and like any other example you can throw out there, like in the modern day, they're characterized as like it's just like superstitious people, like superstitious ignorant people trying to find a way to blame their problems and their own shortcomings on some innocent person, like some scapegoat.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like especially like in like I remember being taught that in
high
school,
yeah,
like in history classes. But is that really what it was though? I mean, like obviously there's going to be some of that is going to be true, right? But how much of it is actually like how much of it was real?
Yeah, I mean, if you go by statistics, they had to at least get a couple witches, right? I mean,
No, dude. I think I think most of them. I'm gonna go out on a limb, okay, and I'm probably gonna make some people mad, but I think probably statistically most of those witch trials were actually legitimate.
I don't know.
I believe that
I was watching a historical
because we're hit with so
documentary.
much nonsense propaganda about how it's not real.
There
I
were
don't believe
some
that.
real
There was
tests
some
that
real
you're
stuff
supposed to
going
take.
on, but
You're supposed to weigh it against a duck, I think, and if it doesn't weigh as much,
yeah,
as
and some of
duck,
that was just people, whatever. If they didn't like somebody, they'd accuse them of something.
Mhm. But I think that like all these people came together and were in agreement that these people, these witches and warlocks, that they were what they were. So like they were either right or they all agreed to reinforce the same
against
lie.
one person, yeah, it's
No,
weird.
I don't believe that.
So here's what happened. Sorry about that, folks. Had to use the restroom. So what happened was Bobby, he was talking to this guy, and the guy told him this whole story. And he says, I'll introduce you to the neighbor that had the bouncy house, and I'll introduce you to the neighbor that saw this. A different guy was walking his dogs, two of them actually. The weird thing was the dogs were not making any noise. It was like the dogs were subdued. And in fact, when this whole thing was going on with what he saw in the tree, they were laying down. Some people would say that is the ability that these creatures have. They can trick your pets and things like that, depending on how powerful they are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here is his neighbors telling him, he looks up in the tree, he sees these yellow eyes, like these glowing yellow eyes. And the neighbor was convinced that he was looking at a Lechusa. He couldn't really see the rest of the body because he said the eyes were actually illuminating the face to where he couldn't get a good look at it, but it looked human-like in the face. He turns around, he doesn't run, he doesn't make a big fuss, he just begins to pray, and he walks his dogs back to the house. He's only about 3 houses down. The next day, he tells everybody, he goes, I saw it. It was in the lady's neighbor's yard, like in the tree right next to where the lady had thrown the whatever. This lady literally every year at Halloween, she would hand out little miniature books that she had made herself, and if you read them, they're curses. Literally, they were curses in Spanish. She would take the time to type them up, and then she would give them out to the children. And if they read them, it curses them. Literally stuff like, something is going to come out of the closet like a kukui and is going to eat you. Things like that. Just basically when you read it, it's
hateful lady.
Very hateful. So that was her thing. She was a very vile, evil woman. And one year, a bunch of kids got sick from the Halloween candy, and they accused her because they said, oh, well, her telling the police, well, the whole neighborhood hates me, so I give them a reason to hate me. That was her thing. But I think it went deeper than that. I think there really was a reason because there was stuff going on. Anyway, this is Bobby going like, okay, this is a lot to take in. He goes, but that woman, that was 3 years ago. She hasn't been seen or heard from since she left. She moved 2 towns over. She's gone. He goes, and in fact, we kept tabs on her. We know where she's at. And according to his neighbor, he believes she's part of a coven. But he told him, he says, you now have something in that backyard. It showed up the day that y'all came to look at the house. I was there because being nosy. My wife, honestly, we were wondering who's going to move in next to us. Right. And he says, well, I'm just renting. I'm going to be here for about a year, maybe 2, till we get this business going. And then I'm going to move back up to Central Texas. He said, well, that's all good, but you're on somebody's radar. He goes, I've dealt with them before and I know what this is. That owl didn't hoot all night long. He just sat up in that tree facing the house. And it was a huge animal. Now, Bobby got to look at the picture and said, I see it. That's a big owl. There's a couple of pictures there, right? Taken with a Polaroid. He said that after they took the picture that the thing flew off, but then it came back. He said, and then about 3 a.m, they heard scratching at their back door. This was his neighbor, right? They went out there. They said the prayer of the 12 truths. If you don't know what it is, look it up. And then they walked back in. When this happened, Bobby had that night, he goes, I'm trying to think, he goes, what happened to me? He goes, and I'm laying in bed, and I told my wife, I said, the night that we went to look at the house, he goes, I woke up the next day and I was really sick and I couldn't go to bed that night. He goes, I was just not feeling good. He said that something went on. Hold on one second. It's work. Jeez. So I just got a report from a guard. 80 people in a swimming pool.
Oh my God.
80 people in a swimming pool. You want to see it?
80 unemployed bums on a Sunday night.
Well, they got that TV out there and the game is on, so they're out there. Thank you for that donate. Oh, that's a member. We got 2 today. What the heck? What are you people doing? This is ridiculous. I need I'm trying to come up with at least $2,000 to pay my taxes. So I need y'all to donate. Start giving me donations in denominations of 100 at least. Pay my taxes.
It's your money and I want it now.
It's your money and I want it now.
Pay taxes. I don't know. Something about that sounds familiar.
I know it does, right? Somebody
Strangely familiar.
trying to strong arm me for taxes.
Someone demanding money to pay their taxes, huh?
Yeah. It's weird. I don't know who that could be.
Yeah.
But anyways, so what happens is and I'm sorry, work is an ever-present pain in the behind. So what happens is, he said, I woke up that next morning, I felt sick. He goes, and that's when my anxiety began. He goes, I had anxiety at one time when I was young. My parents he comes from a broken home and they were always fighting and stuff, and there was a lot of problems. He goes, and it created an anxiety in me. He goes, but I started having anxiety, and it was happening like all the time. And this woman who was causing the problems as the witch, yeah, it was really, really, really bad. She showed up at their new house with his friend, and he told me, he goes, I don't want that woman at my house. The woman that was in question, I'll say her name. It was Jessica. Her name was Jessica. But he goes, I don't want her at my house. This is what happened. When they went into the house, and it wasn't just her, there was another girl that she was always hanging out with that was weird too. He was very upset with his friend. His friend's like, they just tagged along with my wife. She's friends with him. She's really friends with Jessica's friend, but this woman, they go in there. He goes, and my wife said, she swears up and down this really happened. She said that whenever she would brush her hair, sometimes she had really long hair, really thick, long hair. She's Hispanic. She said, I'd be doing my hair. She goes, I would notice that the brush, when she was living with these people, that the hair would be gone. Like somebody was taking it. Now, that's something that a Hispanic woman would notice.
Yeah.
Because if you're Latin, and I don't care if it's Italian Latin, Portuguese, Spaniard Latin, or any kind of Hispanic of any culture, people in those cultures, the Latin culture, and I'm talking Italians too, they are very careful. They don't let their toenails. Well, your mom does. She's Vietnamese. She knows that too. They don't let their toenails be taken. They don't let their hair be taken because you could be cursed from that, right? So whenever they're in the house helping him move a piece of furniture, his buddy that showed up, Ricky, and Ricky said, man, I've been having a lot of problems. He said he didn't look good. He looked real gaunt. He had lost weight. He lost his appetite. He wasn't feeling good. He looked like he had jaundice, man. He's like, dude, the guy was real, outgoing. This woman, can I use the restroom? They're upstairs. She runs into their bathroom. And his wife is very upset when she comes home and finds out her hairbrush is gone. Not only is her hairbrush gone, her toothbrush is gone too. And so is his. So he freaks out, dude. The next day, he's like, I was just out there in the front yard kind of finding, he's a funny guy. He goes, I was finding excuses to be out in the front yard. He's like, I'm watering the plants. I'm checking the mail. And I'm hoping that this guy, my neighbor, is going to come outside. And eventually, his wife looks outside and goes, "Oh, okay." The dogs were barking, and he goes, "Oh, I don't know why. Hey, is your husband home?" He comes out. He says, look, dude. Okay, I think something is happening. You're right. Something is going on. I'm putting these things together, and something is happening." He tells the neighbor exactly what happened. He says, "Okay, you know what?" He goes, "My brother, this guy's brother, his best friend that they grew up, well, not him, but his brother's best friend that they grew up with, he was a priest. And he, worked at one of these churches down there in the next town over. And he says, I'll call him. He'll come by tomorrow. He can do a blessing." He's like, are you Catholic? And Bobby's like, I'm not anything. I'm just a white guy that lives here. I was like, I don't know anything about any of this. Throw this in the fridge for me, please. He goes, I don't know anything about any of this. He goes, I just moved in over here. And I think this woman that's been hanging out, she's a witch. And so his neighbor said, don't worry about it. We'll call my brother's friend. He goes, they've known each other since childhood. He's like, I grew up with them too, but they're a few years younger than me, like 4 years, whatever. The priest comes over. He does this blessing, right? Bobby doesn't know anything about it. He goes, dude, I was not a Christian at that time. He's a very devout Christian now and has been for like 15 years. He said, I accepted Christ back then, but it wasn't like really, I was just going to the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. He goes, and when I left Catholic Church about 5 years later, that's when I accepted Christ, like really, So he says, I kind of let the priest handle it because I didn't know what to do. And the priest goes in room to room, goes, blesses the house, blesses him and another priest. There's two of them. They go around the property. The priest tells him, he goes, you have a dark energy in that backyard. There's something back there. He goes, and I don't know what it is, but I'm going to come back in a week or so and I'm going to sleep on it. And I'm going to see if I can figure it out. He gives them some prayers to say, the shepherd's prayer, the Lord's prayer, all these different prayers. Bobby said, he goes, dude, it was so like it started happening so quickly. He's like, the next day after the priest had left, nothing was happening in the house. He goes, but I took my dog. It was his wife's dog, Snoopy. That's the dog's name. And he's like, doesn't look nothing like Snoopy. I don't know why she called him that, but it's like, didn't look anything like it. It was pretty ridiculous. But whatever. So anyways, and I can't remember the name. I can't remember the breed of the dog. It's one of those with the big long floppy ears and just goofy Cocker Spaniel. It was Cocker Spaniel.
I was gonna say beagle.
Yeah, it was a Cocker Spaniel. He called him Snoopy. He's like he's brown. He's a female. Doesn't look anything like it. Because when he said that, I'm a dog lover. I said, "Oh, does it look like?" He's like, "No, doesn't look anything like him." I kept telling her we needed to get a blue jay and call it Woodstock, but she would get mad. And so it was a pretty funny conversation. But he goes, no, but all joking aside, he goes, I take the dog to the vet. He's like, this woman pulls out in front of me and I run off the road and almost hit a freaking telephone pole. And he goes, Wolf, this woman's head was swaying back and forth, not shaking real fast, but moving back and forth. He's like, and in the face, she looked like a demon. He's like, and then when I got a better look, I saw it in the rearview mirror. He goes, this thing, whatever it was driving this car. And maybe it was just my distorted because of the curse. He thought he was cursed. The eyes looked hollowed out. He goes, and I could see it clearly in the rearview mirror. And look in the rearview mirror because she slowed down like she was going to stop to help. It was like she was just waiting to see if I was going to die. Then this car speeds off. I said this about that. And I told him, I said, when these demons are doing what they do, they use people as vessels. And that woman might have had a spiritual opening, and that demon was using her as a vessel to destroy you. But by the grace of God, you didn't get hurt. You didn't die. The dog, on the other hand, wasn't buckled up into anything. Of course, it's just, and she fell forward and hit her head, and the dog ended up concussed and started having, for the rest of its life, it had seizures.
No, man. Until
eventually it was unalived. So it only lived a couple more years because he believes it was the car wreck. This is what these people do. They do things, and your pets have problems, and they pass away, and they attack you. That's why I'm always telling people you need to plead the blood of Jesus. I'm not even joking, but this gets worse. He said that night, he goes, I went to pick up a pizza. And he goes, and my wife we were really worried, or the next night, we were really worried about the dog. It was at the vet, had to be at the vet for a couple of days. Luckily, he was going to the vet. It wasn't very far. And he said, so one of my two dogs is now hurt. He goes, but I had another dog and he was mean. He was tough. And the other dog, he called him Champion. He was a big, now this is pretty cool. He was a pit bull mastiff mix. That's pretty cool. He had pictures of it. He was a really pretty dog. And Brindle too. I like that Brindle. And so we were talking about, he goes, man, that was my boy. He goes, but that dog was just on pins and needles. He goes, and I had a cat too. He goes, and they were good friends. And he goes, and it's like they were patrolling the house, walking around, and they kept growling and hissing at things. We couldn't see what the hell they were growling and hissing at. He's like, we're coming back from getting the pizza. He goes, and Wolf, let me tell you what I saw. He goes, we're pulling into the driveway. He goes, and we see this, and we've heard this before. It looked like a shadow walking two-dimensionally across our garage. When the light hits it, it turns and goes into the garage. And I look at my wife. I was like, did you see that? And she goes, yes, I saw that. Oh my gosh. She's like, Bobby, what the heck? And she was just grabbing his arm. She's like, that woman, that bruja, she took my brush. She took it, you know. He calls his friend and he's so mad. He goes, dude, I'm coming over there right now. His friend said that Jessica and her friend were there. He showed up over at that house. He went inside and he confronted this woman. She started laughing, dude. He goes, and while no one was looking, it was just her going up the stairs. He goes, I'm at the foot of the stairs. And I'm like, you took our brush and our toothbrush. I know what you're up to. He goes, she laughed like a witch and everybody heard it. She like cackled like this unholy laugh. He goes, and then while nobody was looking, they were kind of talking to each other. Her eyes go back in her head and all you see is the whites of her eyes. He goes, and her hair went up. He's like, I witnessed this. He's like, dude, he goes, I backed up and I was like, you're something else. And he just walked out. Nothing got done about this woman. Like it was nothing he could do. She continued to harass him. And then these weird calls began. Like in the middle of the night, he would get a phone call and it would just be like somebody making a noise like, and there was like this crackling noise in the background and it sounded demonic. And he was like, dude, what in the heck is going on? So he tells me, he's like, you know, he's like, I could see the caller ID back in those days. In the olden times, in 20-something years ago, we had the caller ID. It was hard, Johnny, let me tell you.
In the land before time.
We had to look at the phone number and, oh, is that somebody we want to talk to?
Oh, what century was this?
Kind of like we had, it was the
Pager.
20th century, maybe the early 21st. But it wasn't like these computers we got now that, you know, you walk around and it gives you all the mysteries of the universe. And so he goes, I was getting these weird calls. He goes, and then one of them, I got this call from this guy. It was a Mexican guy. You could tell his voice, Spanish accent. He's talking to my wife, gets on the phone. She speaks better Spanish than me. Bobby actually speaks a little bit of Spanglish. I talked to him. But she gets on the phone and she's like, what? And this guy told him, he says, you're going to die. All of you, you're going to die. Your whole house, you, your dogs, your cat, all of you, you're going to die. Like tells it was a man. And she gets off the phone and he starts laughing. He says, I'm a brujo and you're all going to die. And she hangs up. Calls the police at this point, and then they come over and they talk to them. Not a lot they can do. They're just like, we can't really do a whole lot. But there was one cop. He said there was this younger guy there. And when the other cop drove off, he says, let me tell you something. He goes, a few years ago in this neighborhood, he's like, I saw something. He didn't get into details. He goes, but I saw something in this neighborhood and I shot at it. He's like, I'm just going to tell you, I don't know if it's connected to this, but we had this same thing happening. Phone calls, weird stuff. Yeah. And then he left. And the neighbor, the next day, he's outside talking to his neighbor. His neighbor's spraying off the driveway, whatever. And he said it was about this time of year. He goes, it was about Halloween time, you know. And he said, dude, it was, you know, a bunch of people were putting up decorations and stuff, and his neighbor was cleaning his whatever. So I decided to lend a hand, and I helped out. And he goes, this guy was an invaluable friend. He was really a good guy. And this guy kept pushing him to go to church. You need to go to church. You need to do these things, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he personally was not Catholic. His wife was Catholic, but he says, you know, he goes, I am sort of in between Catholic and Pentecost. I still go to Mass and stuff, but I go to Pentecost. You should go to the church with us. Finally, after a couple of weeks of him telling him, you're a dirty sinner, you need to just admit it, he just goes. He says, okay. And my wife's like, I won't go anywhere but the Catholic church, blah, blah, blah. He says, fine. I go with this guy to the Catholic church, and his teenage son, who's about 18 years old, he's there with his girlfriend. and they're singing, they're dancing. He goes, I really liked all the singing and the preaching, it was really good. He's like, but for some reason, it just wasn't for me. He goes, I just felt like it wasn't my cup of tea. I went 2 Sundays in a row, and then I decided not to. And then I went to the Catholic Mass with him and his wife, along with my wife, because that was what she wanted to do, because their wives are Catholic, So they went, and he goes, I didn't feel anything. I didn't feel anything there either. He's like, but the priest was there, and I did get a chance to talk to him. And he said, I got an issue. He goes, I got these people who are messing with me. And there was a priest that was visiting from another diocese. And he says, I got these people. So they said, we'll go to your house tonight when we're done. So they did, or the next night, whatever. It was a Monday. He said, when we go over, the priest that he brought with him got so sick and so ill, his eyes turned red, and he started vomiting. He couldn't even, he goes, he vomited on my living floor. He's like, he goes, I can't be in this house. There's something here. And something was squeezing his heart. And both priests left feeling ill. His dog got really sick, and he had to go to the vet, and he hadn't eaten in 3 days. And so he kept, every time that he would get worked up or run around or start to act normal again, he would throw up. There was something going on, right? He goes, and then it started happening to my wife, everybody but me. He's like, but I was having these horrific nightmares. He goes, and at one point, he's like, my wife is driving home from work. She had a regular job. He goes, and I'm doing this business with my friend. He goes, and she calls, says, I'm going to the hospital. I don't feel good. She gets there. She says, you know what? They said, I'm just dehydrated. I'll be home in a couple of hours. Don't worry about it, And so then he told her, no, I'm going to come see you. I'm going to go to the hospital. On his way to the hospital, he said, I took a back road, and it's kind of this old county road. He goes, and then I'm going through this area where there's like these fields. He says, I see something to my left. This was the story he was going to tell me. It was one of them. He said, I look over, and I see on the tops of these fields, there's this high Johnson grass, right? And this big sunflowers. He's like, I see the head of something that looks absolutely evil, demonic. He goes, Wolf, it looked like a freaking monster. He goes, and I'm going about 60. I'm really going too fast on this 2-lane road, and there's barely enough room for 2 cars, right? He said, I look over, and this thing had these, what was that? It had these ears pointed backward. He goes, and the only way I could describe it, and he was kind of beating around the bush, and I said, Bobby, what did it look like? He goes, a werewolf is what it looked like. He goes, I know you think I'm crazy. I'm like, you obviously don't watch my show. He didn't watch my show until the last 3 weeks.
It's the last thing we think.
I said, look at my show. I said, I told you when I first corresponded with you through email to go look at my show. You didn't do it. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I've been really busy. I've been washing my hair and, doing all kinds of things, trimming my dog's tail. It's just very important.
I tied my shoe the other day.
Take up precedence over watching your show. In fact, I was trimming my eyebrows. Even that was more important than looking at your show. Okay, I don't want to look at your show.
How about no chance to plug?
Exactly.
Some dog poop off my shoe as well.
He had to clean them with a stick.
It just takes a while.
He goes, I was doing all kinds of stuff. I was making, a popsicle stick version of the Empire State Building. That took a lot of time.
I was watching someone else's show.
I was watching Three's Company reruns.
All in the family.
Watching paint dry. All of that was more interesting to me than your show. We get it, Bobby. We get it. We suck. All right. Yeah. So he says he sees this thing. He goes, and it was gray. It was a gray looking thing. He goes, it was dark. He goes, but this thing looked like it had a self-illumination. His words. He's like it was self-illuminated. He goes, and then I see it turn its head and look over at me. He goes, and while I'm driving, I'm just driving. He goes, and I look over at my little SUV. He's like, it is moving, right? This thing is running out ahead of me. He goes, I look at the speedometer. I'm going 67 miles an hour. He's like, it was crazy. He's like, this thing looked over at me and it had red glowing eyes, and it just decided to veer out in front of my vehicle. He goes, and that's when I got a good look at this thing. He's like, when it did, it put it, and it had an arm. He said, what? No, and I asked him this, right? You all right?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to sneeze. Just do it.
Just sneeze.
I'm trying.
Just sneeze and get it over with. Because you're going to interrupt the show already. You already did. So he goes, it runs out. Now he's going to do it. Right?
Yeah, no.
No.
So it runs out in front of his car. He goes, I got a good look at it. And it rubbed its hand along the hood. It didn't do nothing dramatic like a claws or nothing like that. He goes, but it just ran its fingers along the top of the hood just to say, hey, look at what I can do. He goes, and then it leapt into the weeds on the other side. And he was like, holy crap. He said, I have never been more Christian in my life. He's like, dude, I had this rosary and a crucifix on my neck. I had a rosary in my hand. He goes, and I was like holding them like this. I had them like, driving, I was clutching it with my hand and then driving with the other hand. He goes, and I was scared to death. And I said, how big was he? Said it wasn't like a humongous, just hulking beast. It was kind of slender. But he said that the thing was about 6 foot tall, maybe a little taller,
Oh, thank you so much, Abe.
Thank you for that, Abe. Thank you for that donation. See, somebody's giving us a donation. Help me pay my taxes, at least. Thank you, Abe. So what ended up happening, he said, this thing ran and it leapt into the weeds. He goes, I was so scared. He goes, dude, once I got into town and then I took another back road, and he goes, and then I was on my way to the hospital. My wife calls. He's like, and back then, this was like 20 years ago, cell phone. He had cell phones. They weren't as good as they are now. But he said, I picked it up and there was this crackling noise on the cell phone. And my wife's like, I'm on my way home. Don't worry about it. And he's like, and then she just hung up. He goes, and I'm already freaking out. I'm about, 5 or 6 blocks from the hospital. And so I thought, well, okay, she's, he looks at it, was a hospital number, and he's like, well, why didn't she call from her cell phone? Maybe she left, whatever. He goes, I just took went around. He goes, and I pull into the parking lot of this fast food place. He goes, and I'm shaking. He goes, I'm shaking. He goes, and I got my head in my hands. He goes, and I get out of the car. He goes, and I'm wobbly legged, and I go into the restroom of that place, that restaurant. He goes, and I just used the bathroom. And he said, and I felt absolutely terrible. He's like, and I felt sick to my stomach. And then I started having these episodes where I was throwing up. And he goes, and this went on for like a week. It's like this anxiety and anxiousness in your stomach. When he was talking to me about it, I said, I know what that is because I've been under a spiritual attack. The witchcraft that has been done to us and to my family, it is real. I'm telling you, absolutely, it is real. So this woman calls him up out of the blue, like a few days later. In between that, he goes, all I was doing was sleeping. And I was telling my business partner, you're going to have to take care of this. Go deal with the problems or whatever. I can't do it. And so he says, well, just answer the phones for me. So in the evening, he had a phone answering. He was answering the calls, whatever. He said, I get a call, and it's this girl, the woman, Jessica. And she calls and she says, hey. And he goes, yeah. He goes, why are you going around telling everybody in town that I cursed you, you mother effer? Starts cussing at him and all that. She goes, if I curse somebody, you'd know it. You'd already be gone. You'd be dead. You don't know me. You don't want to play with me. She goes, but since you want to play with me, she goes, yeah, now we're going to play, blah, blah, blah. And she hangs up the phone. He said, I felt like this woman was deflecting from what she had already done.
Mm-hmm.
And she was trying to say, oh, now I'm going to do something. And he's thinking, woman, you already did.
Yeah, we've been playing.
He's like, and I've been waking up with dreams of her standing in the corner of the room. And one of these dreams, I was dreaming that she was standing there. And when I woke up for a split second, Wolf, he said, I looked in the left corner of my bedroom. He said, and right there on the other side of my dresser on the shelf was this woman, looked like a woman, but she had wings like a bird. And when I turned the lights on for a split second, I thought, you see something like a shadow,
It's like a coat,
and then it's gone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, no, it was right there, and it was her. He's like, and you could see her face looked like she looked like a harpy, but it was her face. Absolutely her face. He goes, there was no mistaking what I saw. He's like, and then it was like I blinked my eyes and then it was gone. He goes, and my wife, she always went to work, early. She worked 5-day Monday through Friday job as a secretary. And he's like, and I had this job where we had to work all day. I'm not going to say what it was, but but he had to answer phones, stuff like that. And he said, dude, it was horrible. He goes, and I thought, I got to get out of this place, but I'm locked into this lease for 2 years. And they said that they might be able to let him out of the lease early. And he said, it's a big time problem, that I'm here. He said, but my neighbors were really good. And he goes, and I met this other woman, this older Hispanic lady that lived on the other side of me. And she would come over all the time and bring food and stuff. And she would go into my house, just walk into the house and pray. He said, and when she would pray, he goes, it was like I felt this vibration in my face, and then I would be overcome with peace. He's like, and there'd be 2 or 3 days where nothing would go on. And he goes, and I'd be wishing my neighbors would come back over. And I said, you all this time, and this is a lesson here. And I told Bobby this. I said, you had the power all this time. Now he's a very devout Christian. And he knows better. I said, you had the power to tie, bind, and rebuke this and get rid of it, to stop it. And at any time you could have done it. And Brother Abe preaches this all the time, and he is absolutely right. You have the power in you of Christ. I say it. He says it. A lot of people that we know that are devout Christians, they will tell you this. But so many people feel like they're up against this power that's just, they can't break it. They can't do anything about it. That is wrong. That is absolutely wrong. You have to understand, you have to take the power from these entities. This woman, what she was doing, and it was definitely her, was sending these things at him, but she was stalking him herself. He said this went on for a couple months. It was just spiritual warfare, back and forth, tit for tat. She does something, we do something. He goes, and I'm putting up all these, crosses everywhere. And he goes, our house looked like a cathedral, like a Catholic church. He goes, holy water outside. He goes, we were saying the prayer, the 12 truths, every prayer you could possibly think of. He goes, but he wasn't saved. He was not. I said, you were living by the grace of other people praying for you. I told him that. And not to get religious, and I'm not trying to preach to you. This is not a preaching thing. This is a person's encounter and what happened to them. He saw that creature, right? But it wasn't the last time he would see it. He said he went to McDonald's, not my favorite place, but he goes, I went to McDonald's because we were babysitting one of our neighbor's kids. And my wife gets along real good with a bunch of people. She went to this party where they'd sell the Tupperware and all that. A couple of the people there needed to go on vacation, or not on vacation, needed to go out for the weekend or whatever for their anniversary on a Saturday. He goes, so we started babysitting this kid. He's about 6 years old. He's like, and we didn't tell him what was going on in our house, but this kid was seeing something. He comes up the stairs. He was downstairs playing. It was two of them, two children, like ages 7 and 6. The little boy runs up the stairs and says, somebody's attacking the little, I'm not going to say the little girl's name, but somebody's attacking her. The little boy keeps attacking her. And they were listening to this kid say this. And they're like, what the freaking heck? There's no boy here. There's no little boy. He goes, we had company, right? We had my wife's friend was over and they were talking. We all go down the stairs. He's like, and the little girl is in the corner crying. And she said, while they were playing, what was that? Y'all heard that?
Yeah.
That knock? He said, so while they were playing, this little boy who looked like a shadow, all they could see were white eyes, came out and started to talk to them in their mind, right? And told them that it wanted to play it. I say it because that's what it was. Wanted to play with them. And then when they began to play with it, it started throwing these balls, these little plastic balls they had, really hard at the kids' faces, and then pulled the little girl's hair and made her head hit the hardwood floor. Ugh. When the parents came to get the kids that night after their anniversary dinner, they told them about this child, whatever it was there. This is what's crazy. They said, when this crap was going on with this witch, because they went away from the kids, and then the neighbor was next door. He came over with his wife, and they all were talking to him. And they said, when they knew the kids were being honest, and there wasn't no abuse or anything like that. They said, look, the kids were reporting this black shadow, small, that looked like a child. They were thoroughly convinced that it was this witch, this woman that was doing this stuff in the neighborhood, pretending to be this kid. I say this, it could have been her, but it could have been an imp and something that they deal with. Imps are nasty, vile, mean demons. If you don't know what that is, they are horrible, and they can shapeshift into different things. They like to take on the form of like snakes and black dogs and things like that. They'll shapeshift. I've even heard of them looking like black pigs. So this thing may have been summoned by her, but the similarities between these two witches and their hauntings, if you will, were very, 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 very noticeable. And the people in the neighborhood, they had already dealt with this, so they were very understanding. So they had a prayer circle that they did at the people who the children that these people belong to.
Mhm.
They go over there that weekend. They all go to church together. They go to mass, and then they go and they have this prayer, and they say these prayers. And he goes, "I felt good. I went home, and I felt like this was, something that had touched me." And he goes, "And I felt powerful. I felt strong, but." He still had not said the sinner's prayer, the salvation prayer. He had not accepted Christ the way that I believe he should have to combat this. But the people around him, I think, were kind of insulating him. And they were taking some flack. The neighbor on the other side, the old lady that was living next door, she told him a wild story. She says, "I was asleep." He goes, the very next day, he's like, she's out in the backyard. He goes, and she looks over the fence, and she's like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And this is his wife. And she says, she goes over the next door, talks to the lady. The lady tells her, she says, "I was asleep last night." She's like, "And I had a dream. And in this dream, something came out of my closet." She's like, "And I haven't had anything like this in years since we had that bruja here. This thing grabbed me by my ankles and then squeezed so hard it left marks on my ankles," and showed his wife, and there were these claw marks. And it pulled her halfway off of her bed. She began kicking and screaming, and she took what she had next to her, which was holy water and the Bible, and threw it at this entity and began to scream in the name of Christ. This woman is very heavy Pentecost too. She was not Catholic, although she did go to mass on occasion, because in the valley, even it's weird because even people who are not technically Catholic, they'll still go on holidays and things like that.
It's like a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing.
It's a lot of people that do it.
So she threw the Bible at it. She rebuked it in the name of Christ. She sits up. She says she sees this thing crawling because the holy water opened up on the floor, and it was like that, like splat, splat, and it was crawling. There were no legs. It was just like you could see like the smoke coming off the back of it, like it was dissolving. I mean, crazy. And it was crawling toward the bathroom, trying to get away. And she goes, I just sat there looking at it. She goes, "I'm old." She's like, "I'm 80 years old." She goes, "I wanted to get up and kick it and scream at it." She goes, "I don't have those kind of skills." She told her, it's a very, very funny lady. She tells her, his wife, she's like, "But I was so mad at this thing for coming in my house." And she's like, "It was a woman." She's like, "The face," she goes, "it turned and looked at me. And I saw what looked like these wings that were trying to flap, like they were trying to get away." She's like, it was definitely a Latrusa." She goes, "And I saw the face of it." She goes, "I'll remember the face. If you could show me, I will definitely remember it." She goes back inside. She calls her husband. Her husband, Bobby, he's with his friend Ricky, and they're doing their job. She calls him and she says, "Do you have a picture of Jessica?" And he says, "Yes, I do." Ricky had one. Sends it to her. She goes next door and she shows the woman. She goes, and just to make sure, she shows her pictures of 3 different people. One was her sister, just to make sure, right? Mm-hmm. As a control, whatever. Good idea. Instead of just going, was that her? Was that her? Because you can make somebody go, well, yeah, it kind of looks like, and then you could trick them, and you don't want that.
Yeah.
That muddies the water. But she did the right thing, so she did like a control. And she said, and another picture was, he goes, my wife when she was really slim. Hey, Bobby, you said it, not me.
Your words,
not me. He said this is a picture when she was younger, but Bobby got him in trouble. But it was a picture of her when she was younger. But I said, well, that she would still look like her. He goes, no, she was like, at that time she was pretty heavy, because she was pregnant too. He didn't know that. But she was very young. At that time, like 20 years before, and she was a teenager, and she looked, and so she's like, looks at the pictures, and the woman she says, this woman looks familiar as her, because, she's got no makeup on, and she's young and everything, and she looks up at her and goes, is that you? And the woman says, is that you? And his wife goes, yes, that's me. And she goes, well, it definitely wasn't this one here. She goes, it looks like that one in the middle. She goes, and then she says she doesn't have good eyes. She puts her glasses on and she's straining, she's looking, and she says, oh my gosh. She's like, yes, it is her. That is her. 100%. She's like, okay, thank you. The neighbor, when he sees the picture of the whatever, they're talking out in the front, and he's looking at this woman, and he goes, that is the same woman that lived here. He's like, the neighbor says that. While they're out front talking, the old lady comes over. I don't want to call her old lady, but I don't know her name. So she comes over, she walks across, and she's like, hey. And then they all kind of get together. He's like, and at that time, the neighbor across the street comes walking up, and they're all like right there in their front yard. And they were like, this woman, what is her name? And he said, Jessica. And they all looked at each other, and they were like, because the woman that lived there and the neighbor her name wasn't that. It wasn't that. But they said, wait a minute. This looks like, and they said this other woman's name. And according to them, she still lives in that area, or at that time, right? She still lived there. And they said, this is this other woman, but it looks like her. And I'll just say the other woman's name was Danny. But they said, this looks like Danny. And they were looking at it, and they were looking at the picture, and they were like, are you sure this woman's name is Jessica? The daughter, that she was the kid that was living next door, right? She comes out talking, and she goes, she was the one. She goes, I saw that girl get out of the car when your friend, she's talking to Bobby, your business partner. And he goes, yeah, Ricky. He goes, you remember those two women? She goes, I saw her, and I thought, she looks familiar. He goes, she looked like Danny. But the woman that we know of as Danny was in her 60s. This girl looks like she's in her early 30s. Can't be the same person. Or can it? Everybody was freaked out at that point. And then Bobby was like, oh my gosh. He goes, okay, so the person that I know, Jessica, is this Danny girl, and that is where she used to live. So they walk over to the house where she used to live. It was in between renters. Okay. They sold the house to some people after that. They moved after 4 months. Those people put it up for rent. Yeah, exactly. They were snowbirds. They would stay there in the wintertime, whatever. They put it up for rent. And then it got rented out over and over and over again for 3 years or 2.5 years after that. It was a revolving door. And there were no renters. They knew the owners of the people that had rented it. It was some people named the Greens. There were some white people from up north. They called them. And they said, hey, he said, can you let us in, get your realtor to let us in to look at the house, whatever. The people that lived there before, they already knew the history. There were problems, whatever. And he said, yeah, sure. This was the reason they wanted to go into the house was because the neighbor across the street, her daughter, who was basically like psychic, she had a dream. And she said, there is something in the floorboard of that house. She's like, I had a dream about it, but I got chased out by this creature that looked like a bird with a woman's face in spirit, right? They go into the house. She finds the floorboard where it was at. It was right there in the kitchen, between the kitchen and the dining room. She goes, there was a loose spot right there in the hardwood flooring. This guy knows Mike, the guy that had bought the house. So the neighbor, right? The neighbor, who I'm not going to name, he still lives there. He calls up this guy that bought it and said, Mike, can you tell us, can you help us? Can we lift up the floorboard? And the guy was like, what is this about? And he tells him the whole story. And the guy says, sure, absolutely, go ahead. Because they couldn't even live there because it was so bad. Yeah. Because she was doing things in that house. They lift up the floorboard, and in the floorboard, there's a stack, like a stack of pictures inside of a plastic or a paper sack. They open up the paper sack, and there are pictures, bunches of pictures, like 30, 40 pictures. He's like, and we're looking through them, and there are a few pictures of this woman, and there are people wearing black. There are people, you could tell they were taking pictures of themselves doing like these ceremonies. He said, and there was Jessica. He goes, I saw the proof. I saw the picture of her right there. He's like, I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And they were going through them. He goes, and me and my wife were sitting there. And he goes, there, right there in front of me. He goes, there was her. So he was standing there with her arm around another woman, and there was a weird guy behind him. He goes, the more I look at that picture, the weird guy, it wasn't a person at all. It looked like a spirit. And it looked like it had horns. He said it was terrifying. He's like, so I'm sitting there looking at this, and I'm like, what in the heck am I looking at? What is this? Everybody stopped and paused and said, that looks like Danny, the woman that used to live here. And everybody was freaked out because there was a picture of her when she was older, right? And he goes, well, that she's way younger now. So he started praying. He did this fast that they told him to do. He did all these things, and he went to this mission in San Juan. He's like, dude, I was practically bathing in holy water. I was going to the Catholic Church. I was going to Pentecost. He's like, and then finally he goes, I accepted Christ, at the Pentecost church. I said the prayer. He goes, but I really didn't live my life like I really wasn't a Christian like I should have been. He said, about 5 years later, I was going to another church, and I said the prayer again. He goes, and I've renewed my faith, and I felt good. He said, we stayed there at that house. He's like, for another 5 months. He goes, well, we couldn't take it anymore. And we finally said, can we buy ourselves out of this lease? They said, well, yeah, you got to do this letting fee, whatever. He goes, I don't care. I'll pay it. And he goes, and we got out, and he goes, and we moved from the valley, and I told my friend, hey, man, he goes, I gave him a bunch of money. He goes, and I just said, take it. I don't want to be a part of this. And we moved all the way up to Dallas. Now they live in another state. But he goes, we couldn't stay there anymore. He said, and a crazy thing, he goes, when we were driving out of the valley, he's like, we were about an hour out of the valley. He goes, I see this thing on the side of the road. He goes, and I kid you not, it looked like a bird, like a black bird, like a vulture, like it was eating a deer. He's like, and as we got closer to it, this thing runs out in front of our car, and it's not a vulture. It looks like a freaking giant wolf. He's like, and at the last second, it stands up and runs into this field full of weeds and stuff. And he goes, my wife was like, what the heck was that? He goes, dude, I don't even know. But you remember when he got the call, and his wife said, oh, I'm on my way home. Remember? Mm-hmm. When he turned around, when he got to the house, his wife wasn't home. She should have already been there.
Yeah.
So he's kind of freaked out. So he calls his wife, and she don't answer. So he calls the number to the hospital that he was on his phone. And it's just a number that he ends up, they're like, punch 1 for this, 2 for that. That's all it was. So he sits there kind of dumbfounded, and he thinks, about an hour goes by, keeps trying to call his wife, can't get a hold of her. Turns out she never called him at all. She was in the hospital after she had told him initially she was going to be there, and they gave her some stuff for nausea, whatever, and they were running tests on her, and she had a massive headache, so they gave her this stuff. She felt like she was in pain, and so they gave her something, and she went to sleep. So she wasn't responding to the phone, and she never called. That was not her. Whoever called and told him in her voice was lying. It wasn't her. So totally weird thing that happened to this guy. And when he saw that black bird-like thing and basically morph and turn into like a wolf, and there was roadkill on the side of the road, it was a deer. But he said, dude, I will never forget this as long as I live. He goes, I don't know what this woman was, a shapeshifter, time traveler. He made up all kinds of, scenarios that she could be. I said, well, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. She's probably a witch, and she could do these things. So that's that story right there. And, you guys ask questions if you want and give me your opinions.
Never ceases to amaze me how easy it is for them to get access to things like hair or toenails. And you have to be so aware of it, because all it takes is one mistake and they'll get a hold.
Oh. Yeah. Let's see what the chat's saying.
Risky Precision had a question. So you said in the picture she was old, but she looked younger in real life?
No, there was a picture. They found a picture of her where she was young, and then they found another picture where she was older, like they remembered her. And they only knew to go in there to look under that spot because of a dream that the neighbor had had. Because when she was a little girl and all that was going on, but when she got older, she was very psychic. At least according to what these people were telling me. But he doesn't know whatever became of this woman, Jessica, Danielle, Danny, whatever her name was, whatever her real name was. He doesn't know. And he quit talking to those friends because they kept dealing with her. But the whole time she would mock him and laugh at him and make all kinds of, accusations and stuff. And one of the things that he believed was going on, and his wife could attest to this, was she was very promiscuous. And she ended up messing around with Ricky and then ruining his relationship. And she tried to do it with Bobby, but it didn't work. Yeah. And so he didn't go along with it. So she didn't like him. And his wife was very, she caught on to her, but who knows?
Randy asks, I would like to know, if you see or find a chicken foot, what do you do with it?
Burn it.
I forgot who it was though that we talked to before, where they were telling us a story about this woman who they had met, who would like she was an attractive young woman, like in person, but for some strange reason she made it clear that she didn't want to get her picture taken. She was very uncomfortable with people taking pictures of her. Well, somebody had taken a picture of her and like without her knowledge, and they found out why, because in that picture she looked like significantly older than what she did in her life. Like,
yeah, you're going to be more specific than that.
Yeah, I remember a couple stories.
Yeah, I've heard a few of them. They said your mic is off.
Oh.
So repeat what you just said.
Okay. So
protein bar.
yeah, I was saying that we've had stories from people where there was one in particular, and I forget who it was from, but they were around this woman who was she was an attractive young woman according to them, and she was like really uncomfortable for whatever reason with people taking pictures of her, and somebody had snuck a picture of her, and they found out why later on whenever they went to go look at that picture, why she wasn't comfortable getting her picture taken, because in that picture she looked a lot older than what she did in real life. Nobody remembered her looking like that in real life, like what she looked like in that picture.
Oh yeah.
So it's like they project these images of themselves, I guess, into people's minds that they're like young and attractive. But if you see them, like if you can see through that, then you'll see that like they're like nasty, ugly looking people.
Read his comment. I mean the protein bar.
Yeah. Let's see. We got well, some of my night terrors about this giant owl would have a woman's head at times. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Another one. Tony, read that one.
There's a delay on our end, so it's not showing up yet.
That's the strange thing about these witches and vampires to the human eye. They're attractive, but deep down they're really ugly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's funny how, like, it's happened a couple times in a couple stories you told. As soon as they stop basically doing witchcraft or doing whatever, it seems like they age like 1,000% times faster, or like they just get unnormally old. I think it's because that's just what they look like normally. It's like as soon as you accept that stuff, I think it takes like your life force, but you can look younger.
That's why they don't like people who walk in the spirit, like who don't just see with their eyes, but they perceive, like they have really powerful discernment. They perceive spiritually, because like they can cut right through that. Like that, the projection of a beautiful young woman that usually works on most people isn't going to work on them, and that they don't like being around those people because they don't like people seeing them. That they want to creep around in the dark. throw their rock and hide their hand.
That's why I stay ugly. So if you see me as ugly, you know I'm not doing anything evil.
Well, you're doing a bang up job. In fact, I gotta say,
two thumbs way up on that job. You're doing
I'm
thumbs.
a good person.
I was gonna say you're doing awesome.
I try.
Yeah, nobody's ever gonna mistake you for a handsome person.
Yeah. If you suddenly see me at a weird angle and think, dang, he's handsome, just know, witchcraft.
Any other questions? Luke Clark had a question.
Oh, 1 second. Your mic was off. Let me see if I find Luke's question.
Somebody said my mic is off. My mic is off?
It was while you were reading.
I mean, I didn't turn it off.
I pushed it away from me.
No.
Oh.
I was being nice. Did anybody want to read Luke's comment?
Yeah, let me find it.
Do these witches operate on their own, or are they controlled by a demon?
Okay, now that's a good question. If it was me and I had to put money on it, I'd say this: they are controlled by demons, but they wantonly allow it, like they do it themselves, and they bring it on, and they bring on their own destruction because they do this stuff. And yeah, I think what happens is they're so hungry for power and control and to manipulate and do bad things to people and mess with people that they end up becoming controlled by a demon, and they give over that control. But it is something they do willingly. That's my take on it. You know, and sorry, folks, I didn't eat dinner. I had to eat a protein bar.
Bounty Hunting Bear asks, if they know there's a price to pay in the end, why do they do it? Well, short-sightedness.
Sure, yeah, I was going to say, that is one of the biggest mysteries to me.
Yeah.
Because you know what it is? These people, though, I think they're so full of crap that they believe in their own wisdom, which doesn't really exist. And what I think they do is they make a sucker's deal, and they think that they can, you know, somehow they're going to gain control and they can weasel out of it or whatever.
Well, do you think they're in control? I mean,
but they're also deceived.
Yeah, I was going to
So they're
say.
thinking that there isn't a hell and
Yeah.
they're not going to be punished.
Or that, you know, they are more powerful than they believe, when in fact they're just pawns.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they think that the price is going to be worth it.
I don't know. Or they might
No, I
not even
think
think
it's true
there is
because,
a
like,
price.
Think about it. Like, okay, if you have like a problem right here in front of your face, you know, and like this is all these people see is like, I have to deal with this. So I'll deal with this problem like by any means necessary. But they're not seeing past that at the greater thing that is like it's like you can't see the big picture, and they think like this is all there is. If I can just get rid of this problem that's right here in front of my face, everything will be fine. But then they do that, and they see this big picture, and they see like the real cost to pay after that. But by the time you see that, it's like it's too late. I mean, like, I'm not saying that all of them think that, but I think it's a common thing where these people they really think that the cost is going to be worth it to pay.
Yeah.
Because you have to be careful about like letting your heart and your mind become so consumed with hatred for someone, or like hatred, anger, because these are pathways to this witchcraft, this black magic stuff. And, I mean, I believe it's a common, like, most of these people probably got into this stuff by trying to get revenge on someone, but by trying to satiate this Old Testament vengeance, this obsession with eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, all this crap. And they think that they're justified. Like, they really believe that it's okay, you know?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think that that's a big part of it, but I think it's also possible that, I mean, that like, so let's say I'm a warlock or whatever, and I'm just, you know, you're coming hanging out with me, and then I show you a couple things, then you get interested, so you start doing a couple things, and I start showing you, I slowly introduce you more and more into it,
Mhm.
And then eventually you don't realize there is a price to pay because I'm just showing like, oh, look, if
Ignorance.
you do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, that could also be an aspect of it where it's not really that they are like ignoring the price, but they don't realize it until it's too late. Then it's like, okay, now that you're already too far into this, if you don't want this to happen to you, you have to keep doing it or you have to get even worse.
Well, yeah, they depend on your ignorance.
Yeah.
I mean, like that. Ignorance is what gives evil people, evil forces. That's what gives them power over you.
Mhm.
You know. Oh, I think there's something wrong with that mic. Like,
Did you break your mic too?
I don't know. Chaplain Tony says they invite demons to carry out works of magic. After a while, they are trapped by the evil and go crazy and are
Yeah.
consumed by the demons.
Exactly.
Jessica, oddly enough, a lot of these witches are atheists or don't believe God is real. It's the wackiest thing I've heard.
Yeah, that's dumb to me. It's like
Well,
believing in ghosts, but like saying, "Oh, Bigfoot's weird. Bigfoot's not real."
I mean, in a way, like an atheist, like someone who doesn't believe in anything at all, they can almost be like just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than someone who knows what it is that they're doing. Because these people who don't believe in anything, that they can be more easily manipulated. Because if you don't believe that any of this is real, then you're wide open to it, and you don't even realize it.
Mhm.
You're like not even. It's not like you're not aware of the dangers. You don't even know danger exists.
So was my mic off?
No,
No,
I
I
just think the connection on it maybe was.
Well, I mean, but
Messed up.
were they not able to hear what I was saying?
No, I mean you weren't muted.
Well, folks, I hate to do it, but we got to run. We got a lot to do. We got work to do, and Tony's got to go to work, and I got to go do a job. I got to go to work too, and so does Anthony, because we are shorthanded. And unfortunately, this is crazy. It's like we're snake bit, but you know what it is. People throwing curses and doing all kinds of, and not just throwing curses like they're doing spells, but when people sit there and dwell and focus on you and dwell on you and wish darkness and wish bad things for you and bad things on you, that is a form of witchcraft in of itself.
Yeah.
So some of these people are just wishing bad things to happen to us, and they have these little pep rallies and they get and they do all this whatever.
I mean that's really what it is. Like at its core, it's like it's a
Jealousy.
focusing of negative energy on someone.
But it doesn't even faze me. I don't care. They could say whatever they want. It's a free country, and you're welcome to lash out and say whatever the horrible things you want to say. God bless you. I forgive you. And I'll just say this: 90% of it's lies. The little bit of it that's true, they mix it with a lie to make it sound good.
Yeah.
And I don't care. You're not affecting me. You're not hurting my feelings. I'm drinking my coffee here. Let me show you how much you're hurting my feelings. I love all that cinnamon, man. Look at that. Awesome. Won't be able to have these when I'm behind bars for whatever odd reason. Funny, people do things and then they're like, "You're going to jail." For what? For what you did? Why would I go to jail? I didn't do anything to you. But people obsess on you and they do silly, crazy things and they say goofy, silly things. And trust me, all that negative thinking and bad talk and all that, it's going to blow back on you. Those people that do that the most, to answer the question about witches and all that, they don't believe that anything's ever going to come back to them until it does. But the sad thing is they're so blinded by Satan and that when something bad does happen, they rationalize it in an obtuse way by saying basically like you're rationalizing it in a way that, how do you say it, like something bad happens, but you don't put two and two together.
Yeah, you don't. Basically, it's a form of not taking any kind of accountability. Like, oh, something bad happened, but it's not because of anything that you did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very weird thing when you look at these people and you wonder, like, how on God's green earth did the thought patterns go? That's why I said forget trying to figure them out, because there's nothing you can do that's going to make you understand the goofiness.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about it before. It's a, I don't know, like a thought incest, basically what you called it, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, when a group of people get together and just back each other up.
So it's like impossible to try to figure that out.
Compounding lies. I mean, and that's the most dangerous thing for your soul. Because if you're in this matrix, we're already in a matrix, but you're in this, you create one with other people who are supposed to be adults that understand things, but they don't. And then it just becomes this soup, that you're all swimming in, and you're bonded only by a negative thing, which is hatred.
Mm-hmm.
And then you reinforce each other's bullcrap, and then you start spouting off all kinds of dangerous things. That's just what happens, man. And I don't. Yeah. Caleb says they believe the mythology they created. Yeah, they do, because they back each other up. But imagine you only have like 7-8 people, and you can make a post on Facebook and get a bunch of people that don't really know half of what's going on to comment and say things. Anybody can do that,
Yeah.
So I don't hold those people. I don't have any ill will toward those people. They don't know what the heck is going on. They just know what they're being told, But I say this, if you have something negative, where's the proof? Where is the proof? There's, there isn't any. The other side saying, well, they got all this. You don't have anything. We are literally taking what you say and putting it right there.
Yeah,
it's right there at PRT News, and they're like, well, we have all this. You don't have anything. All you have are goofy things you say that I'm dancing around at a club called the Iron Bear. That's all you got, and nobody in the entire universe can corroborate that, because I've never been there.
Hey, man, you have devil eyebrows. We've all seen it.
Proof is coming. The proof is coming. It's going to all come out, and then these people they're going to go to jail. That's what's going to happen, because of some other guy that made up a lie. No, we're not. It's not how it works. You can hope that, you can wish that, you can throw curses, and you can focus bad energy. But at the end of the day, folks, it is a lesson, because it's going to blow back on you when you do those bad energy things. When you put it out there, it comes back to you. Now, I don't know what happened to this woman down in the valley. That was years ago. And Bobby doesn't know either. But if I had to take a guess, if I had to hazard a guess, I would say not a good thing. She probably came to a very bad end, and something bad probably happened to her. And then while it's happening, people like that are so stupid. They're probably like, I don't even know how this happened.
Yeah.
You did a bunch of stuff that you shouldn't have done. It's not rocket science. It's just, whatever.
She just wasn't doing
shake
the
your head
right.
and wonder what. Yeah, well, maybe
This isn't Venezuela. Say bad things, straight to Yale.
Straight to Yale. Witchcraft, Yale.
Yeah.
No witchcraft, Yale.
Yale. PRT, we love you, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, only good things for you. Love and light. Now, always, I love Tito.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you to the people that always donate and help out and make the show what it is and keeping us going. That's the important thing. Don't forget, tomorrow night, my favorite night, actually. I love Mondays. Mondays, I just get to sit back and chill, and you, the audience, come on and you tell your encounters, and we have a great time. Here's the announcement for those of you who ran off. There was another 100 and something people in here. Here in Risky Precision TV says, I have a quick question. Go ahead, fire away. But here's what I'm going to say. Next month in October, you're going to get PRT every day of the week for the entire month of October.
Mm-hmm.
Every day of the week. Mondays will be the call-in show, like always, where you can jump on and it's not really a call-in. It's more like you get on and whatever. Tuesday is the Patreon. If you're on the Patreon, you get a Patreon show. Wednesday, we have, what do we have on Wednesday? We have the show like this.
Yeah,
it's like a Sunday, Wednesday, the live stream. Thursday, you get the members only episode. Friday, you're going to get an interview of some kind. Because we're doing some more interviews. We're doing a bunch, and we're going to try and get these people that want to talk and tell stories. We're doing it. It's just a lot of work for us because we work all the time, and then doing the editing. And these two guys got to do the editing. And the editing it's intensive.
Yeah.
So, but you're going to get an episode on Friday, and then Saturday you're going to get an episode. It's going to be about 30 to 40 minutes long, maybe a little longer, depending. We have like 5 or 6 shorter stories that we need to get out that may not go for a full hour, but you're going to get an extra show every Saturday. And that's going to be some spooky ones, some scary ones. So, because it's Halloween time, and that's when things, you talk about the scary, spooky stuff. We got some stories for you coming up every Saturday. So if you want to be scared, it's a spooky, spectacular Saturday, spooky, whatever. So that's what's going to happen. Every Saturday you can get a pre-record from us. We might do a live stream or two on a Saturday, but we're mostly going to just drop out the pre-records. And then Sunday, of course, you have our flagship show, which you just watched. And that's, every Sunday.
Yeah.
So the entire month of October, you're going to get a show. If you join the Patreon and the members only, 2 different things. Members only is $5. The minimum for the Patreon is $10. But I would recommend doing more, because not only do you help us out and keep the show going, but you get a better swag bag. You're going to get a better swag.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, folks, I really got to run. Thank you tonight.
What
I
about
don't
the
have
questions?
time to do the giveaway.
The questions.
Questions. I got to go. But Ricky, what do you got? What's going on? Risky.
He says, so what do you say about someone using cycle blood to curse someone? Well, put a root on them. It happened to my grandfather.
Like, not really understanding what you say. Somebody about someone. Jump on the show tomorrow night and ask that question, and I'll try to go over it with you. I don't have time to really get into that right now, because I'm not real sure what you're saying. But maybe you can explain it better tomorrow night. We'll be on 8:00 tomorrow night.
And I'll answer Mike's question real quick. Hey,
You can
Josh,
jump
I have
on.
a question. Do you get any stories from England or Portugal or anywhere in Europe?
Yeah.
We get them from all over the world.
Yeah, we got plenty of them. We had people come on actually and talked about stuff that happened to them in England. We have story. We did one that was a vampire story from Portugal. A guy that was an electrician. I remember this one very clearly. And he saw, well, I say a vampire. It was a flying humanoid looking thing. But yeah. So anyways, folks, I got to run. I don't have time to do a giveaway or anything tonight. I got to go. I'm already running late. Thank you to everybody who donated. Thank you for helping us out and keeping the show going. You're the lifeblood of the show. And thank you to those who joined the Patreon. And for those that did the members only, get your name in green and join the members only. I see Adam Paulson. Adam, he says, "What's up, troopers? Not only are you late, sir, but your name is not in green. So you need to get that done." All right, guys. I'll see you. Thank you. Good night. Hold on.
A good shepherd is he, the one that guides me. Though in darkness I find myself alone, I lack nothing, for my God above me his throne. All his love he has shown. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life above me his throne. A silent storm of chaos follows close behind, but in him comfort I find. I find still waters flow gently, reminding me in him I find safety. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a so cold, this is my life above me his throne. I don't walk alone no matter where I go. On the high highest mountain or the back alleyways, the Lord with me He stays. He restores my soul, renewed, unbroken, His righteousness spoken. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life, above me His throne. Guidance, protection, this is His love's reflection, guarding me from the opposition. The Lord's feet show me a righteous direction. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life, above me His throne. Overflowing blessings, anointed with oil, the Lord protects my soul from eternal turmoil. My cup overflows, His mercy He shows, abundance He sows. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life, above me His throne. I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever, no matter where. For the Lord's goodness and mercy are in me, a faithful love entirely. Though in darkness I walk alone, in a world so cold, this is my life, above me His throne. I will fear no evil, for Thou art with me. I will fear no evil, for Thou